Day two of the weekend of racing here at the Echelon Racing League as we head to the Paterberg today after riding in Borrego Springs yesterday. A little different course today with some elevation and obviously mimicking the epic Paterberg climb, which we're going to see several times out there today. My name is Brad Soner here with James Vickers from RGT, which is the platform that we're going to be racing on today and for the entire Echelon Racing League. James, good day of racing yesterday. Got to think that it's going to be more of the same today.
Absolutely, really enjoyed yesterday. Super flat, super fast, super hectic. Two great sprint finishes, some big efforts to get away for some of the more powerful riders like Jaden Yeager in the men's and Christie in the women's. Some really cool stuff going on, but today's the really exciting one for the three events, I think, with the Paterberg being such an outrageously tough climb. Lap one, yeah, I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, so let's talk about how the racing unfolded yesterday. We really thought we were going to see a separation, but it never really came. We thought we were going to see lead riders getting away off the front, but for the most part, they stayed together. Today, though, I think is the day that we see some separation out there.
Yeah, I mean, looking how it panned out yesterday, I was expecting a breakaway to go. I don't think there was enough organisation between the teams. So there was never going to be a time where three Evoc riders got away or three Canyon riders got away. So there needed to be some more organisation between the teams with the DSs talking to each other to get the break off. Just as you would expect in the real world. But I don't think we saw that yesterday, and I think we saw some solo efforts going from, we've already mentioned Jaden Yeager and Austin Fowle. Yeah, some really big efforts, but never able to get away. And it was the same for the women's as well, just unable to get far enough up the road to kind of make the Peloton sit up and just start controlling their movements as opposed to thinking about that break going away. I was surprised at how much chasing went on in the men's event yesterday. They were literally chasing their own shadows. As soon as anything moved up the road, all the numbers went red and they were going for it. You know, all of the riders were pushing hard to chase on. It was a good event. Really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, it was a really good start to what is set to be a very interesting season here in the Echelon Racing League, as they have 22 days of racing here in the league. They're going to be visiting various courses based on real American races here in the United States, races like Tour of the Gila, the Redlands Bicycle Classic. Now, the riders are racing on the RGT platform. James, we talked about the power and weight verification yesterday, where the riders must register their weight at race time because the system uses that to determine how fast their video game character goes. Each team fielding somewhere between 4 and 6 riders. They have a total roster of 12 riders throughout the season, but they have to select between 4 and 6 to start. Now, omnium scoring in the series here, which means that the time only matters for the GC on the weekend. After that, if you win the overall, you're awarded 60 points instead of the time adding to the total overall GC time. So it's a points-based omnium scoring, but we do keep track of the time during the races. Now, we talked about some of the races that the riders or that the Echelon Racing League will be visiting earlier in the show, and you can see some real standouts, some crown jewels of American racing as we go Tour of the Gila, then the Thompson-Bucks County Classic, followed by the Armed Forces Cycling Classic. Then it's the Gateway Cup, the Redlands Bicycle Classic, Joe Martin Stage Race, followed by the Green Mountain Stage Race. And then Tour of America's Dairyland, some criterium racing up in Wisconsin to wrap up the Echelon Racing League. And then hopefully by that time in March, we'll be back to some real life racing. Hopefully this craziness that's going on right now will be behind us and we can get back to the racing that we all know and love. So James, we talked about the courses. These are based on real life courses. So the course today, the Paterberg, the elevation data, the climb data, the distance is all accurate with the real Paterberg loop. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We've done a good job. I think we've created something that looks realistic, that feels realistic, that races realistic as well. The Paterberg loop that we've chosen is pretty tough. We mentioned yesterday there's 2 climbs. It's a bit of a I mean, people come to the Paterberg event and think that it's all about the Paterberg climb, and it isn't. There is another climb in there. We would probably refer to that as climb 2 because it isn't as tough. It's not as big. It's not as steep. But that seems to be where the softening up process can occur, and where some riders just trickle off the front, get a gap, and then they're away, and they've got the Paterberg to themselves, they've got the line that they want, and they're able just to sail off. And I think we'll see the breakaway go on a different, somewhere else. We might not see it on the Paterberg like you'd necessarily expect. But as you were saying, Brad, yeah, super accurate. You've got the gradient changes, you've got the left and the right, you've got the farmhouse on the Paterberg itself. It's not video based, obviously. It's compute. Well, it's graphics and simulation. But yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, and then the real life courses that we're doing, those are loaded into the platform, so you guys can build really any course that you want. And those are the in real life races that we're going to be visiting later on this season. But let's talk again about the Paterberg today. I had pulled up the Velo Viewer profile earlier in the day, and there was a whole lot of orange and red. Sorry, this is from yesterday. We were going to show some racing from yesterday, but this is the Borrego Springs course, a whole lot different than what they have today out there. The riders certainly will know this one well. Let's talk about yesterday, though, real quick before we continue with the Paterberg. Starting with the women yesterday, we saw the group stay together all the way to the line, and yeah, probably not going to change there.
No, great. Like I said, yesterday's event, Godbe was absolutely phenomenal. Christy was absolutely phenomenal. Grobler, there was some really impressive rides for some really impressive athletes. I think 2 seconds separated the top 10, making everything to play for today. So it's there's it was close throughout. That's selection that made it. They're all within a chance of continuing at the top spot.
All right, so here's our map for today. They're doing several laps around this Paterberg circuit. So, James, you see the red part on the climb, but you were talking about this second climb, the yellow climb, the Paterberg Junior. Is that what we should call it here?
Yeah, we can call it the Paterberg Junior, I think, today. It's just deceiving. It's a race recover style course. You hit the Paterberg really, really hard. You've got no choice because everyone wants to show what they can do up that climb. Everybody. So you hit that hard, and then you come back round and you do your nice. You've got a little bit of flat and then a little bit of a descent, and then you're away again on what we call climb 2, the Junior Paterberg, as you've just named it, Brad. And you feel it. You definitely feel it. And I think it's a really good place for people just to forget about what's going on and be waiting for the Paterberg. And then you just slip off the front and you've got a gap and you're away.
The good news on RGT, you're hooked into your trainer, so the bike can't fall over if you can't maintain your momentum forward. The Paterberg is one of those deceptively tough climbs, isn't it? When you go see it the first time in real life, or when you ride it for the first time in real life, they make it look so easy on TV, but when you get out there and really try it, you realize how hard it is. So it's really cool to have the chance to ride it on RGT, because obviously the smart trainers are able to add the appropriate resistance for riders as they go up the Paterberg. So they get a real life feel of the climb, but it's a whole lot harder than it looks, that's for sure.
Sure, the riders are definitely going to learn how the climb pans out, riding 6 times. It's not as steep in the lower sections, and it really kicks up 3/4 of the way up the climb. You really feel it up to, I think, 19%. And then it flattens out a little bit, and then it still continues to go around the corner. So you're off the cobbled section and moving towards the finish line, but it still continues to ramp up around the corner. And if you're not careful, again, that's another place where you can just get a gap. 3 or 4 riders slip off the front and they get the move away, and that's it, they're gone.
All right, inside 30 seconds to start. We saw our riders warming up there, getting ready. We're going to try and check in with some of them throughout the race here today. Now, James, the start of these races is really, really important. There's a lot of times a tendency to go a little too hard at the start. A lot of times riders get sort of over-aggressive, but this group is pretty well experienced on RGT at this point. I think we saw a much smoother start from the women than we did from the men's yesterday. Got a little choppy in the guys.
Yeah, the men's start was not what I expected. Super hard, super tough. The women's start was a little bit more subdued, a little bit more like we're seeing now, with the group staying together, not quite so spread out, quite so quickly. I think this will be an interesting first lap, because you go hard from the start, and then how do you recover? before you've got that climb? How hard can you go before you get to that climb? You know, how much effort can you put in before you come around to the climb, and then you're back full gas again, full stick, and your face getting dropped. So it's a delicate balance, I think, this first lap.
We see already some riders going into the orange and red zones. We talked about the power zones yesterday. You see the scale to the right of the data set up in the top left-hand side of the screen. James, take us through, if you would, what we're seeing on our screen here, both with the power zones, but also what each of these numbers is telling us, and the list of riders on the left of the screen here on RGT.
Yeah, sure. So the rider cassette, or the rider list on the left-hand side, that's pretty standard. It's just a list of the riders, and it shows their position throughout the event. You'll see a lot of ebb and flow as those numbers change. But at the left-hand side of that number, you'll see right now you've got that a coloured bar that changes colour, and that's also above the rider's head on the screen itself, under their name tag, and you can see a coloured bar changing colour. Now that indicates how much power they're actually putting out in relation to their functional threshold power. Really quick sports science, functional threshold power, the maximum power you can produce for a 1 hour period. And that is a percentage of your functional threshold power. And the colour bars, that is what you see on the right-hand side of the power chart in the top left-hand corner. Recovery, endurance, tempo, I think that's threshold, VO2 max capacity, and pain. So yeah, that's kind of what you're seeing. You're seeing how hard each rider is going, and it's a really nice way to watch your opponent, see how hard they're pushing and see how hard they're going. You've then got at the top left-hand corner, you've got these this little drafting graphic which shows that you're in the draft, and behind that drafting graphic, you'll see a line graph popping in. That shows you how hard, and that shows you the power that the athletes are putting out. This isn't a threshold effort. You don't just sit on smashing it out like you do on other platforms. You look at the variance there on that power line there. You see the red for the braking in the corners. You see the power dropping down. You see a big difference. And then you can see the power, the cadence, and the heart rate, and that's that's core to a cyclist's activity. Just going to come back into this race now. So we're just hitting baby Paterberg. So this is that for junior Paterberg. This is that first climb. This is the first opportunity for riders just to give it just to turn the screw a little bit, just to start that softening process. And we're seeing it now, Brad. Look, people going hard.
Yeah. Easler, Keller up on the front, taking an early charge here. I'm watching the riders at the back too, because I wouldn't be surprised to see some riders dropping off the back of this group. In fact, already seeing some separation there. So not even to the hardest part of the climb yet. And already this is Grobler taking a look off the front, as the Brit has been very strong this week. Had a great ride in the preseason race, was up there in the mix yesterday in Borrego Springs, and just dangling off the front on the about halfway up the baby Paterberg. I like baby Paterberg better than Paterberg Junior. I think it's a little cuter, don't you?
Yeah, we'll go for baby Paterberg or Piccolo Paterberg. Maybe we mix Italian and Belgian influences. So that was the first time up, and it is interesting to see, as we suspected, Brad, we've seen a separation and almost a selection being made already. Looks to be Grobler, trying to see who's here that was there yesterday, because this is going to be important.
Krista Doble-Hickok, definitely one of the big hitters in this field. You saw her in the orange rally jersey, but riding alone, no rally teammates here in the Echelon Racing League. Now, a rider like Grobler has a massive Evoque bike squad behind her. You see she's got Michelle Henry, Laura Matson-Coe, Angela Pitzker, Yvonne Timwell, Heather Patton, some very strong names on that Evoque bike. Probably the most well-rounded team here in the Echelon Racing League. So they're wearing the white jerseys with black shorts. Evoque, pretty easy to pick out. They got some of the coolest kits in the game here on RGT.
Yeah, super cool, and great for Grobler now in the break, and with such a big team, the Evoque team behind. They're not going to need to do anything to be part of that chase. I think we're probably looking already at 250, 300 meters gap. I'm looking at a couple of riders off the back of this lead group, just trying to come back on, just to bridge on. But we're just coming to the Paterberg for the first time. The guys are just about to hit the cobbles, and they're just about to feel what it means to see 20% on RGT cycling.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this has already gone down to less than 10 riders. I think I counted 9 as they made it over the baby Paterberg first time. And now on to the big one as they start the big major climb on this loop. See Christopher Hickok getting up to the front and already going into the red zone at the bottom here. Oh boy, it's going to be a big one today.
Yeah, that is some serious power. I just asking everyone to respond there, and Grobler does, moves up to the front and starts to push on as well. Really interesting to see. I mean, they're not messing about at all. They're going hard. As we suspected they would, I guess. They're hitting this climb seriously hard. It'd be good to get a look behind. Yeah, there we go. So we can see, you know, in terms of distance now on the climb, they're not too far behind because the climb slows the group down so much. There's that chasing group is looking likely that it could make that connection, but once they get over the top, they'll start to put distance between those riders behind them again. And I think it's unlikely that we're going to see this come back together in the next couple of laps at least. It might be that it does, but it certainly looks like this selection will be in place for probably 2 or 3 laps now, Brad. I can't see it coming back.
Yeah, I think Keller is probably the last rider there that's going to have a shot at tacking onto the back of this group. You can see she's been in the red zone for a long time. You see that red line under her name. It just went orange for a brief moment, and now she's looking for just a little bit of rest on the way up. Look at the efforts of these riders. Yeah. Pretty much everybody spending some time out of the saddle today.
Yeah, this is mega interesting when you can see. I said interesting a lot yesterday, but when you can see into the pain caves, you can see what's going through people's minds. You can see them out of the saddle. There's some sweating going on there. It looks super, super tough. The first time up the Paterberg, and it's going to get harder. You know, the first time's probably the easiest because it's going to get more difficult.
Yesterday's winner, Jacqueline Godbe, making an appearance up at the front into the 6th position. That's her right there with the green line under her name. Godbe racing in the USA Cycling team kit, and certainly going to be one to watch here. We talked to her yesterday after the race. She said, feeling pretty good. I like my chances on the Paterberg, and she's made the selection here. Let's say this is down to 7. Wisman will make 8, but yeah, if you made this group today, James, you can feel pretty good about your fitness right now.
Yeah, right, for sure. So you're right, absolutely. 8 riders in this lead group. I think the chasing group is probably the small chasing group is about 120, 130 meters behind, and we're just seeing some riders now start to come up the Paterberg. If you look in the top right-hand corner, going back to the on-screen display that we're looking at now, you can see there's some climbs, some riders only halfway up the climb. So there's a lot of work to do for those if they're going to get anywhere back into this event. But this lead group, super strong. These are the strongest athletes out on the road there today.
Nice job by Wiseman closing the gap there. James, drafting does matter in the app here on the RGT platform. You just saw Wiseman do it right there, just a little bit. It actually shows you how the drafting is in the top left of the screen, but that's part of the game element of RGT. There's certainly an art to riding here. It's not just about being strong. In a situation like this, you got to ride the right way to be the most efficient on RGT.
Yeah, definitely. We've alluded to this already. Looking at that top left-hand power chart again, when the drafting chart disappears, you'll see the difference in power as it goes up and down as the riders apply more and less power all the time. Looking at Wiseman, looking to be dropping back now. Not sure what's going on there. Look to have just eased off and dropped back. Now a big effort required to bridge that gap. That's really unfortunate to see that happen. But yeah, I mean, look at the power chart there. You see the big peak increase as the power goes down, and that's fundamental to riding on the platform. You know, it's how it works. You need to make sure that you're burning your matches. We talked about matches yesterday, and we talked about that metaphorical brick that you chip away every time you go that little bit harder. Above threshold effort, you take a little bit out of what you can do each time, and every time that power chart goes up and there's a peak, those riders are taking some a chunk out of that brick.
Nice job by Wiseman to get back in there. You saw the red zone effort, and then as soon as she got in, she was able to get a rest and turn it to green. So learning the lesson that you got to stay there, although it's a lot easier to say when you're watching them race on RGT than it is when you're sweating sitting on top of a trainer. So maybe I'm not one to talk here, but the rider's very quickly learning how important that drafting is here on RGT. Meanwhile, O'Mara on the way down, taking a look on the front. James, talking about strategy here, it's probably either sit in or breakaway at this point. They're probably pretty happy with this scenario, I would think, if you got it down to a selection of 8 or 10 riders. If you're in this group, you're pretty happy with the situation as is. So I can't imagine there's a whole lot of desire early on here to try to launch a long-range attack. That probably comes later in the race.
Yeah, I'm. You know, these guys look pretty good right now. It looks like this is a selection, but you never can tell. And if the group does get organised, they've obviously got power in numbers. It's a slightly smaller field than the men's field, so we have got, you know, probably 30% of the riders in this front group. If the back group can get organised, you might see a bridge. But I think you're right, and I think the thing to do now for these is to just think about what's going to happen at the end of the race. Have a look and, you know, keep your eye out around you and see who you're going to try and soften up that climb, and how, you know, what happens next. Who knows?
Even more separation here as they go single file. I think that is Godbe up at the front, leading the way in the USA Cycling kit. By the way, each of these teams rocking custom kits in the game. They also have merchandise available outside of the game. You can buy your favorite team gear at wearenations.com. Each team has a t-shirt and some gear up on the website now. So if you want to support your favorite squad, cheer them on from home, check out wearenations.com for official Echelon Racing League merch.
Yeah, they look great. I might be partial to a KISS Racing team one. I quite like that. It looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got an all-star
a good
American
mix in
team
here in the breakaway.
Yeah, so it's an all-star American team though. I think from the 8 riders, we've got 6 Americans. 1 Belgium, I think, is Weissman, and then 1 Canadian.
At double Hickok, Godbe, Tracy, O'Mara, Sidlick, and Chafin. The 6 Americans sitting on the front here with Weissman and Beauville sitting 7th and 8th. Now, part of that is because this is a heavy American field. Obviously, Echelon Racing League based on the American races, so they do have a heavily American-leaning roster for most teams. But another cool part about racing here, you get a chance to race against riders that you would never see if you were racing in real life. Obviously, we can't travel over to Belgium every weekend to race, so this is a good way for everyone to get together and ride their bikes in a social, fun, and yes, competitive way.
Yeah, definitely. So we've just hit the Paterberg for the 2nd time. A little bit more subdued, not quite as frantic as that first descent was when that big selection was made, and this group really put time into the rest of the field. Some riders just having to go into the red just to get back on and bridge over, but yeah, it looks a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more controlled this time around. So perhaps what you were saying earlier, Brad, about the riders just making the decision to ride together, keep together as a unit, keep the pace high, work together to keep that gap and not let that the chasing group now behind, not to let them bridge over.
Yeah, this took it down to 6 riders. Chris Doble-Hickok will be the last rider in that front group. And then you see the second group forming. That's the chasers at the bottom left of your screen here. As Chris Doble-Hickok on the right-hand side tries to hang on. And then Christy Tracy in the middle of your screen in the other orange jersey. They're not teammates. They're both wearing orange. Chris Doble-Hickok wearing the orange jersey of her Rally Pro Cycling team, her trade team on the road. But this is going to be interesting to watch this chase group. This is now or never for this group of 5 or 6 riders. James, one interesting thing that I want to put in for development on RGT that I think would be really interesting for virtual racing is riders in these groups being able to communicate. I think that's one thing that we're still kind of lacking in this virtual racing, is that you can't really come up with a plan like you can in real life to get with these riders and say, hey, let's work together to try to chase back on to this lead group. You do see Discord being used quite a bit, though, in the teams. The teams teams will have internal communication where they chat with a lot of times a director watching the race, but they certainly have open communication amongst the team so they can figure their strategy out. Chafin off the back here of this group, so Chase back in though.
Yeah, so there is a rider, I think, just coming up now. Oh, I thought that was a rider up the road there. I think that's one of our camera bots there, just getting past. Yeah, so Discord, you're absolutely right. All of these teams will be communicating, talking, letting their DSs know how they feel about the event, how they are, what's going on. So they'll all be using Discord as a development feature. I think it would be brilliant if we could pull that into the app, or at least integrate with the Discord product so we could eavesdrop. Imagine being able to hear what the teams are talking about, what Godbe's being told, what Tracy's being told, how they're approaching the event, and it would be nice to eavesdrop and see where they're going and what their plans are. Not quite sure how much we would be able to share, because obviously they're trying to keep some of those plans under wraps. But yeah, it's a great idea, and we should integrate, or we should build something that works for the teams as well. But it would be great from a spectator's perspective to understand what was happening.
Yeah, I will say from our experience trying this in real life, trying to get mics on riders, a lot of grunting and maybe a lot of words that aren't fit for television. So two things we got to keep in mind as we go forward with that. But I'm sure you love people telling you how easy it is to develop the RGT platform. So if you could just sit down and put a couple hours into developing that, that'd be great.
We love it. It's what we're about. We're not about developing a product for. We're about accessibility, and we're about empowering the community, and we're about realism. That's what we're about. But that accessibility and empowerment element of our business, we want to hear it. Like, we genuinely want to get this feedback from our community, understand what it is that they want, and we want to build that out for them. We've got some features coming soon, which is a direct request in response to us asking what people would like to see happen in esports, and that's all as a result of feedback from the community. So, keep it coming, Brad. We're all over it. I mean, that's, to be fair, we've heard that a few times. And it's certainly something that we're talking about doing. I think we'd quite like to integrate with Discord, though, not create our own version of something, because Discord's so useful, so powerful already that we'd just be reinventing the wheel, maybe.
All right, I'll keep a list and send that to you at the end of each week with my requested features. Back to the race up here. Godbe, Chafin, Sidlik have all been putting in efforts on the front, but pretty much keeping the group together here. I have a feeling this is going to stay like this for a while. They're at 14.7 kilometers to go. You can see the distance remaining in the upper right-hand graphic on the screen here. Sidlik putting in a little effort here on the way up, although I think that was kind of off guard. You see she goes back into the orange here. Maybe doesn't quite want to be that far off the front here. I'm thinking this is more of a race of attrition at this point. Just try to survive 2 more times up the Paterberg, and then you can start to attack. They've got 3 laps to go right now.
So yeah, we just Piccolo Paterberg there, as we've renamed it. So that's that little launch pad we talked about at the beginning of the ride, at the beginning of the race, where we expected some animation to happen, and we did see it there. Sidlik there, I think there was a little bit of malice there, turning the screw a bit, softening up those riders around her, and just giving it a bit of just a bit of a lick, I think, up there, just to let people know that she's feeling good.
Oh, down to 5 riders here. I think we did lose Krista Doble-Hickok off the back of this group. We'll try to figure out what happened to her, but just noticed we were down to 5 Americans in the front group. Doble-Hickok listed at 120 meters back, so not sure if she got dropped at the bottom of that climb or what happened there, but this is now down to 5 riders with Krista Doble-Hickok, the latest casualty out of the breakaway.
Yeah, and that's what we said at the beginning, that section would animate the race. It's unexpected sometimes, and you've still not fully recovered, and I mean, this descent's great. Now the riders can start to take a breather as they come down and make their way to the Paterberg again, but it's a really awkward little climb that. We spoke yesterday about it, and we said from experience we knew that it would open the race up at that point, and we've seen it twice now. It's played a fundamental part in how the race has played out. It's looking, yeah. I think Tracy and Godbe, I think most of these riders in this front group were also well positioned yesterday as well. So yeah, it's looking good for these guys now.
You see this kind of a rotation up at the front. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just looking back up the field there. We've got Grobler at about 500 meters, Keller at 400 meters, and Doble Hidcock looking. Probably the best thing right now to do is just to sit up. I mean, 4 watts per kilo, 5 watts per kilo is not going to get. It's not going to be helpful right now for Doble Hidcock, and I think the best thing she can do is just sit up and wait. Maybe join forces with Keller or Grobler, and I think that would be my plan. Just there. We're back to the Paterberg again though. Brad and Sidlick again, pushing into the red numbers, looking around at people and asking for that response.
Yeah, and early too, at the bottom of the climb, pretty much as soon as they start. Now, obviously, the Paterberg is not a super long climb. It's not an alpine climb where you're measuring in miles. You're really measuring in meters here. So you want to go as hard as you can, I guess, as long as you can. But Sidlick easing off the gas here a little bit, maybe a little over-ambitious or over-eager getting to the front at the bottom of that climb, wanting to make sure that she doesn't end up off the back, because that's the worst-case scenario, that you lose that draft and then you have to go into the red to get back into the group.
Absolutely, and we explained the climb, the gradient, and how it shifted throughout the duration of the climb. We're now up to that steep section in the top part of the climb, 19.4, 19.5% gradient, 20% gradient. I mean, that's super tough. These riders are really going to be feeling this. Sidlick, Tracy, Godbe. I mean, this could be another move for these guys with that small gap just appearing, but it does flatten off at the top. And probably there's going to be an opportunity for these guys to bridge over.
Saw how quickly Stephanie Sidlick there going from green to red as she tried to take just a little bit of a break, and then was able to get back up to the front.
Absolutely. Looks like Keller and Doble Hidcock have now joined forces. They're riding together. They're 200 meters back, but we'll see that distance gap that's on the rider list to the left-hand side. You'll see that go out considerably now as these riders get together. There's 4, 5 riders in this lead group. They'll be able to put some time into those 2 on their own. Saying that, looks like Beauville is not too far behind either. So maybe there is a chance that they can work together and come back to that leading 4.
I'm watching Krista Doble Hidcock trying to catch back on here. She's at about 300 meters back. Remember, she was in that lead group and is now just trying to slowly work her way back up. Doesn't have a lot of help, but she does have a lot of fans. I am blown away by this pancake setup. Staying cool, certainly not an issue for her today.
Yeah, we could talk about the importance of staying cool. From an athletic perspective, it will make a massive difference having all of those fans being able to keep cool. Overheating is a the problem associated with indoor racing like this, and the last thing you want to be doing. I think we spoke earlier on, and I think Krista had lost. I think she said 6 pounds in body weight in fluids in one event. So maybe even still feeling some of the impacts of yesterday's race.
Yeah, you mentioned that you had seen some riders making sort of homemade air conditioners next to their training setups, where they were using ice packs on their back or sometimes putting it behind the fan to try to stay cool.
Yeah, there's a lot these riders can do to stay cool. We talked about the ice packs on the back. There's a manufacturer called No Pins that has jerseys with pockets, and you can put ice packs, specially made ice packs, into the pockets. There's a new indoor brand called Ido that makes very lightweight indoor clothing that has a high wicking functionality which evaporates the sweat, taking the heat away from the body. We've seen people putting ice packs on the back of fans, pulling the cold air through the fan and blowing that onto themselves. But all of these things, they marginal gains. David Brailsford, Team Sky, Team Ineos Grenadiers, that marginal gains theory, it's important. And when races are won and lost with less than 1 second separating them all, that's just less than 1%. It's important that you've got everything you can and everything is prepared as it should be.
Yeah, we're seeing it more and more in virtual racing and esports, where riders are looking for those marginal gains wherever they can find them. Riders like Christy Tracy here have really embraced the virtual racing. In fact, she streams all of her races on her page. You see she has the green screen behind her. She's got her own custom backdrop, her own sort of pain cave down there to stream her RGT races on her personal pages, as she does a lot of e-racing. So pretty cool to be able to see these riders in home and get a real-time view at the effort that they're putting in.
Was that a smile?
It might have been. I think maybe some encouragement from the team.
I think that was the short descent before this kick that we've talked about before, the Bambino Paterberg. There is a descent and there is an opportunity for the riders to take a breather, get their breath back, get some energy back into the legs. So yeah, smiling. Good to see.
Very rarely do you see riders smiling in the middle of an effort like this on the baby Paterberg, but this is Christy Tracy up on the front of this race. Maybe the smile gave her a few extra watts to get up there. I'm going to have to try that on my next ride.
You can try it, Brad. You can definitely try it.
I'll report back on how that goes, but I have a feeling.
Yeah. Let us all know how you get on. 15k in now, 10 kilometers remaining, 351 meters climbed. That soon adds up. The Paterberg and the Bambino Paterberg, that climbing soon adds up. They'll be looking at another ascent of the Paterberg and 2 more times up. One more time. No, 2 more ascents of the Paterberg. Yeah, absolutely. So they'll probably do in the region of 500 meters climbing today.
Yeah, just getting ready for the Stelvio on Sunday. This is just the appetizer before the big climbing comes on tomorrow's stage as they climb up the legendary Passo dello Stelvio, but we'll talk about that as we get a little later in the show. Watching Godbe back on the front here. James, we saw this yesterday. Jacqueline Godbe was super aggressive early on in the race. Did not like to be left at the back of the group. It seemed like she spent a lot of time at the front, but then went on to win at the end of the day. So seeing Godbe riding up here at the front like she is right now, that makes me think that she's on the same form that she was yesterday and got to be feeling good in this group. There's certainly some confidence watts for Godbe today, but the way that she's riding just seems confident to me, spending a little more time at the front than I think the other riders.
Yesterday when we spoke about Godbe's time on the front, I did make a comment that actually we were watching their name tags a little bit more, and it might be that in fact it just appeared that way. And I went back this morning and checked it out and had a look to see how much time Godbe did spend at the front, and it did seem to be that Godbe was at the front more. So yeah, absolutely giving it all and really pushing on. So probably now is the time if we're going to see anyone with Sidlick again. As we come into the base of the Paterberg, straight into that red, really turning the hurt up on those around her.
Yeah, she's trying to, it's kind of like sag climbing. She's just trying to get up ahead so that she doesn't get caught off the back, because, again, that's the worst case scenario. But Sidlick definitely is jumping earlier than the other riders at the bottom of these climbs. She's getting to it earlier, and that might have caused a split here. This is 4 riders. We'll see if we can get a look behind them with Sidlick, Tracy, Godbe, and O'Mara. Chafin having a little trouble. That might be a connection issue for her. We'll see if she gets back in. But some major separation here. Keller is off the back. She is gone. So looks like this is going to go down to just 4 riders here.
Yeah, that can't be nice for Schaefer there. I think with that connection issue, it'd be good to see that she's started to roll again. No idea what happened. Her power just instantly dropped to 0. Maybe a connection issue like you mentioned, Brad. Almost a virtual puncture or a virtual mechanical. Really disappointing to see that though, when you put in so much effort and then you have that small technical issue that makes your race literally fall to bits around you.
Yeah, I hate to see a race go that way, but yeah, I guess it's just part of racing, just like real life when you have crashes and flat tires and stuff like that. So we'll see if we can get to the bottom of that. Hopefully she gets that dialed for tomorrow because she was on a great ride. She was hanging with this front group of 5.
Absolutely. I think we'll see. If we drop back to the rider list, we might see that she's either started to move on again and she's rolling again. But we might miss it. But yeah, really disappointed for her. Really disappointed.
Well, you hate to see it, but down to 4 riders in this front group with Tracy, O'Mara, Godbe, and Sidlick. Your leader or your winner today will come out of this group of 4. One rider going to miss the podium out of this group. You start thinking about that at this point here, where you start thinking, all right, just one more time up the Paterberg. You're kind of getting down to the final lap, taking inventory of what's going on, and this is a pretty good scenario for these riders. Expect to see a lot of green and a lot of blue over the next lap because I think they're kind of saving up for that last big effort up the Paterberg, trying to draft where they can.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the standings from yesterday to see who was where and how. Amara was 7th, Tracy 4th, Godbe was 1st. So there are 3 riders in this group at least. I probably missed them as well. There are 3 riders in this group that are in a good standing with the overall points, and yeah, so this is a strong group, very strong group.
Tracy back on the front here. Godbe just dangling off the back a little bit. Now, Christy Tracy, another big name that we were watching heading into this one after winning the pre-season race. We had sort of a test event before the start of the Echelon Racing League just a couple weeks ago where Christy Tracy went to the line with Madeline Godbe, I'm sorry, not Madeline Godbe. Christy Tracy, though, obviously a very strong rider. We saw that in the preseason, but now she's got a big target on her back. We're really starting to figure out who in the Echelon Racing League are the riders to watch, and as we figure it out, so do the other riders out there in the field, James.
Yeah, Jaden Yeager suffered that fate yesterday. I think he was a marked man. Big target on that guy's back. He was not able to move any effort, any attack, any slight gap, and he was chased down. The same as Christy and Doble Hidcock, I think yesterday they both experienced a similar kind of response from the group as they attacked.
All right, working their way down now. You can see the distances on the left-hand side of the screen to show how far back those riders are. It looks like Chafin and Keller are back in and moving. Just under 600 meters behind for Chafin and right around 750 meters back for Keller. Meanwhile, Krista Doble-Hidcock dropping a kilometer back, having a tough day on the Paterberg today as Tracy, O'Mara, Sidlick, and Godbe press forward at the front.
Yeah, we've got a feel for Doble Hidcock. Found herself in no man's land, and there's nothing worse. Just being stuck in the middle of nowhere with no one supporting you in front or behind, isolated. And I think that's what's happened there. You go backwards, you know, just start parking up. That's it. You are you're going to get dropped. So it's a shame really to see that, but never mind. Back at the front, we're just about to hit our Bambino Paterberg, Brad. So perhaps a launch pad for somebody. A really good opportunity now for these riders to get either softening up or actually make that important move.
And coming up on some lap traffic as O'Mara catches back on. You see Tracy doing just enough work here to get to the front and stay there. She goes into the yellow, but not into the orange.
Yeah, these guys they're starting to ride smart. They're starting to ride smart. I think I was probably a little bit overexcited when I said it's a good launch pad. We've got another go up this climb, and we've got 2 more ascents of the Paterberg. So maybe it was a little enthusiastic of me to think that somebody would want to take it up from here. But yeah, it seems to be a little bit more controlled, more subdued. It's good to see with Gobi in the pain cave there.
Tell nice look at Jacqueline Godbe.
Yeah, tell me about Jack and Godbe's partner. I mean, that was a pretty impressive household yesterday.
Yeah, so 2 winners from the same household yesterday. There must be something about the pain cave. I thought it was the basement. I learned it's actually the front room of the house. Actually, fiance racing next to each other. So Jacqueline finished up her ride and then immediately turned around to cheer her fiance on. Actually was kind enough to give us an interview during the race. But I don't know that we've ever had 2 winners of the same virtual race from the same household on the same day. So I don't know if it's what they're cooking up there or something in the air, something in the water. They're from the Chicago area, so I'm sure it's not something in the water, but a very good ride from both of them yesterday.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. And I keep saying that, but it was good to see. Cooper and Godbe, same household, different trainers, I might add. They weren't both on the same trainer. So, yeah, really cool. Really cool that they both came from the same household. I mean, they plugged their coach yesterday. They were very thankful for everything their coach had done for them. Obviously, he's doing something right. I might give him a call, Brad.
I might give him. I have a feeling a lot of people might give him a call.
His name escapes me, but yeah, really, really cool. So this is the penultimate penultimate climb of the Belgian Paterberg, cobbled climb.
Yeah, sitting right around 4.7 kilometers remaining here.
Sidlick again is the rider to activate that that small breakaway as they hit the bottom of the Paterberg, turning the numbers red before anybody else, getting to the front. Really clever stuff. That just moving up to the front. This is how all these riders should be riding it. You know, you don't need to. If you can be at the front on the climb, then you can drop back through and have an easier climb. I think that's really clever riding from Sidlick there. I don't know if that's intentional, but it's certainly something that, with experience on the platform, I'd be looking to do. Be on the front when you get to the climb, let everyone come around you, and then you're still in the draft when you get to the top.
Yeah, just good old-fashioned smart bike racing from Stephanie Sidlick out there today.
Definitely. So it's Christine Godbe, both in that lead group. Both on our cameras now, looking reasonably composed. I say that with a bit of tongue-in-cheek. I don't think there's too much composition there, but really pushing hard. Stood up out of the saddle. Christy Tracy again sat down, turning that big gear like a proper tester, just turning over the pedals, just turning that gear, just consistently plugging away. Just sat down. Completely different style to Godbe. Stood up on the pedals, dancing on the pedals. Really two completely conflicting styles there.
Yeah, Tracy, a ultra endurance rider, ultra endurance athlete. So she's used to those long, sustained efforts in the saddle. In fact, I think we see her in time trial bars quite a bit when we have the rider camera on her. So yeah, very different styles of riding. The explosive riding of Jacqueline Godbe and the slow, steady burn, or maybe I should say quick, steady burn of Christy Tracy.
Yes. Yeah, the quick steady burn. I like that. We'll take it. Just watching Godbe there, just drift off the back a little bit. I'm wondering if there was some fatigue set in at the top of the Paterberg. Maybe showing some fatigue there for the rest of the guys, letting them know that she's feeling it. That was maybe a 6 or 7, 8 meter gap on the flat in the draft. Yeah, maybe there's maybe they are human in that house after all.
Well, Sidlick driving up on the front there just a little bit. I think it is starting to heat up a little bit here on the way down as we go inside 4 kilometers to go at 3.7K remaining. The question is, who is first to go, I think, at this point. Someone has to launch an attack out of this group. Someone like Christy Tracy probably wants to attack from a couple kilometers out because she's not a fast twitch athlete, right? She's not a sprinter. She doesn't have those sprint muscles to close it in the last 50 meters or 100 meters. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a long-range attack from somebody out of this group.
Yeah, I think if you are a tester, you are a time trial athlete. My expectation would be to see something go earlier. Lots of slow twitch muscle fibers, just turning those big gears. But looking at how Christy performed up the previous ascent of the Paterberg, maybe there is something she can do now. Maybe she is in a good position. Maybe she's feeling strong, and maybe we'll see it go up the Paterberg. There isn't much racing left. If we look at what the riders have got to do over the next 3.5, 4 kilometers, there isn't much racing left. We've got some flats. We've got a descent, we've got a really short, sharp climb, and then we've got the baby Paterberg followed by a long downhill and then the Paterberg. There is a little chance that the race will be won on the final sprint section between the top of the Paterberg and the finish line, but my prediction is that we'll see something go either on Bambino Paterberg or the actual Paterberg itself, and that's where the gap will come, and that's where the winner will come from.
Yeah, no question in my mind. This race is won on the either the Paterberg or baby Paterberg before they get there, because you kind of need a launch pad to get away here, and that's the perfect part on that course, the iconic Paterberg climb. Pretty amazing how quickly this climb has become iconic. I was doing some research yesterday, James, about the Paterberg. Wasn't paved until 1986. I think a lot of people have this vision that it's this old, iconic road that's been around forever, but it was a dirt road up until 86. They were going to pave it with asphalt, and then one of the local farmers actually said, hey, maybe if we pave it with cobbles, we'll be able to get some of the classics to come by. So he convinced the local town to pave it with cobbles. Eventually, they did get the Flanders Classics to come, and it's been a legend in the race ever since. Designated it only in 1993 as a protected monument, and again, the cobbles weren't put in until 86. I thought it was way before that.
I didn't know that. I, like you, presumed that it was like the Schranstauenberg or something like that from the Roubaix, a famous cobbled climb. It seems that that's not the case. I think that I believe it made appearances before in some classic racing up the gravel, but maybe I'm wrong. I had a feeling that I'd seen De Vlaeminck and athletes like that hit the Paterberg, so maybe they did it before it was cobbled. But I had no idea that it was only cobbled as recently as my age. I thought it was older than myself.
A little effort from O'Mara here on the front for the Amy D Foundation as she gets ready to take a look off the front of the Paterberg here. Look at the colors behind her. Godbe and Tracy in orange, Sidlet going red for just a little bit, but they're still sitting in right now. This is not the riding profile of aggressive riding quite yet. No,
my prediction for it to go here, along with many of my predictions, was completely false. We're going to see this all be about the Paterberg. Now is a really good opportunity. These guys can, as long as they stay together and there's no long range attack, they can sit in, they can get their breath back, they can find some legs for what is going to be a cruel mistress, and that is the final ascent of the Paterberg.
Here comes Sidlick moving up to the front. I'm trying to think about the way that the race ended yesterday and who did best in that group sprint. Obviously, Jacqueline Godbe is the first name that comes to mind, winning the group sprint out of the bunch. So got to think that Godbe wants to keep this one together, even though she came from triathlon. She was not a sprint racer, but does race some criterium races in her area. But I think Tracy looking for a long-range effort, but Godbe has to be thinking, it worked yesterday. Why not try to just sprint out of this group of four again today?
The effort yesterday, thinking of how that played out, Christy was probably the most powerful rider in those closing sections. We have the luxury of being able to see what the riders are doing and not just where they are on the road, and Christy turned those numbers red and they stayed red. I was really surprised that after she got caught, she was still able to go again and took fourth. So if yesterday's performance is anything to go by, and how Godbe came around at the last minute, but with the support of some draft, my money right now is going to be, I'm not going to say it, it's too close to call, but yeah, all right. Christy was phenomenal yesterday.
Well, here we go on to the big climb with just under 450 meters to go. O'Mara taking an early lead. Everybody going into the red zone now. Sidlick sitting in second. Tracy going third. And then Godbe sitting in fourth. But they're pretty much all maxed out at this point, James. And they are struggling to get any space in between them. O'Mara just barely pulling ahead. Here goes Godbe in the orange, putting in a little effort as they slowly tick away the distance. 300 meters to go now.
Yeah, just watching Christy, she's boxed in. There's no steering, so it's difficult. It's very difficult. If you come into the bottom of this climb last, you can get boxed in. So she's not able to come around the group. She's stuck behind. That will open up for her now. I think she will be able to come around that group if she's got the legs to do so. But she was boxed in for a short period of time there, where she was forced to sit behind. She was producing more power than the riders in front. She wasn't able to come around them, and that's something that's really key about this. Is positioning is important. It's not just an all-out power fest. You've got to be in the right place at the right time. As Christy does come up, and she does come around the group, and she's now at the front of the pack. Brad.
Sidlick getting dropped off the back. Tracy, Godbe, and O'Mara, the three remaining. The arch, you'll see it just up around the right-hand bend here at 130 meters to go to the top. Godbe starting to get distance, but just a bike length or two as Tracy and O'Mara surge to the front. Looks like one of these two will take it to the line today. O'Mara surging now with 30 meters to go, and Tracy, O'Mara, looks like O'Mara got it there on the line. Well, now they're updating it to Christy Tracy. There we go. I think Tracy got it, James.
So close. So close to call. So close to call. Another phenomenal VO2 effort from Christy Tracy. I mean, all of those guys, phenomenal. But again, a really long, protracted, drawn-out, high-power sprint. An amazing achievement. It looks like it was Tracy, O'Mara, Godbe, Sidlick, with Chafin and Keller now in 5th and 6th. Just coming up the rear, and hopefully we're going to see those soon. But what a finish, Brad. What an absolute incredible finish.
Yeah, pretty much as good as that one could have gone. 4 riders in the front group. They drop 1 on the way up, the final time up to Paterberg. And then Tracy and O'Mara go head-to-head. And a virtual photo finish on the line. But Tracy gets it with a unmeasurable distance back to O'Mara at 0 meters, and then Godbe going to end up in 3rd. Sidlick held on for 4th. Great ride for her today, even though she fell off the back just a little bit on the final time up that climb on Paterberg. Sidlick going to end up with a top 5 today, so a solid effort from her there.
Yeah, that was an absolutely delightful end to a really good race. It was a fantastic sprint. It just kept going, and I think that's the brilliant thing about those rising sprints. It's a great place to end a bike race is after a short, punchy climb like that, because they're like slow motion. Those sprints, they just seem to last forever. They don't do much for positioning, but what an absolutely brilliant sprint finish.
It's hard to call it a surprise as you see the riders cooling down after a very tough ride out there today. We'll give them a little chance to cool down and cool off here before we do our post-race press conference here.
Look at the composure. Look how composed Tracy Christie. I've got myself confused here. I'm so excited. Look at the composure though. Looking so composed.
All right, let's see if we can get a word with Christy Tracy here, our women's race winner. Christy, can you hear us? Hey, Christy, first off, congratulations on the ride. 2 victories for you now in the Echelon Racing League with the preseason event win and then the win today. That's got to be a good feeling for the rest of the season. I'm not sure if she can hear us or not. I guess not. We'll try and get that audio routed to her. So, James, seeing a lot of the same names now, we're really starting to get a feel for who the stars are in this race, and it's pretty obvious that Christy Tracy is going to be one of them to watch.
Can you hear us now, Christy?
Mine's up.
So we've got audio coming from Christy, so hopefully they can connect us in a moment. But yeah, it seems to be a very similar group of athletes at the front, looking sharp at the pointy end of the race. We're seeing Christy, Godbe, Noble Higcock, trying trying to think who else was up there, but a very similar selection as yesterday.
Oh, leave that fan on.
All right, I think we've got Christy Tracy now. Christy, I got to say, for having just won one of maybe the hardest stages of the Echelon Racing League, you're looking pretty fresh. I can't imagine you feel as good as you look right now.
Not so much. That was really tough. Jackie and Stephanie, and I'm not sure who Amara's first name is, but I know she's with Amy D. They were all so strong and really, really hammered it to the line. So it was so close. I didn't know who'd taken it at the line between Amara and I.
It took us a while to figure out, but we did have to go to the camera. Elena Omar with a close second place on the way up. Hey, when you realized it was 4 riders away, did it become pretty clear that that was going to be the move pretty quickly?
Yeah, we were all pretty certain that was going to be it. Chapin with Evoke kept the gap pretty close. She was only about 0.2 of a mile back, so we knew we couldn't let off too much, or she could bridge up. But yeah, we knew it was probably going to come down to the 4 of us, but we still had to keep the pressure on. So.
All right, well, congratulations as we head to the Stelvio tomorrow. How do the legs feel? Are you thinking you're going to have a chance on the Stelvio for the last day of this weekend?
We'll never say never. My legs are pretty fried, but I think everybody's are. So I think we're all probably going in about an equal playing field, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, we will see. Good luck out there, and we'll see you on the Stelvio tomorrow. That's Christy Tracy, your race winner today. Now let's see if we can get a word with our second place finisher. I know we have Elena O'Mara in our Zoom room for our post-race press conference. Now this was a new name for me, James. We didn't really see this name at the front a whole lot yesterday, but Elena looking pretty good out there today. Got to be happy with this result. Congratulations.
I think we might be struggling with audio today, Brad, but yeah, 7th from Mara yesterday. She was a rider you remarked on towards the closing sections of the Borrego event, and I think we started to see some movement and activity up at the front towards the end of stage 1. Definitely more active today, or at least by appearances more active today. Looking super strong with a group of really high quality, high class athletes. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, really good stuff today.
All right, Elena, we got you now. We're going to bring you back into our broadcast here. You were talking about riding with Christy Tracy, some new names out there. You were trying to figure out the riders around you, but it sounds like you got a pretty good feel for them pretty quickly out there today. Tell me about your prep for this race. Did you get a lot of intel about riding on the platform, sort of how to ride on RGT? Was there sort of a crash course for you over the last couple of days?
I mean, what was it? 2 weeks ago we had that prep race, but it's different because you've got to learn how to coast through those corners. Yeah, I don't know, like the whole racing online is totally different too. Starting off really with a high heart rate, so just kind of warming up. Yeah, I think I've managed to like warm up and get my heart rate a little bit high, just so I'm not like hitting a wall right when I start.
Yeah, lessons learned today heading towards the Stelvio tomorrow. Does the riding style change for you? Did you pick up anything, or is it more just the riders that you're watching and marking tomorrow?
Just trying to stick with the front pack is, I think the best bet. And yeah, keeping with the front riders. That's some of the goals.
All right, we'll be looking for you on the front tomorrow as we head to the Stelvio. Elena O'Mara, second place today with the AMD Foundation. Congratulations, Elena.
Thank you.
So I think that might be our third place athlete. Oh, sorry, Brad, you go. We'll throw to you.
Yeah, I was going to see if we can get Jackie Godbe here into our Zoom room. In fact, we've got her right now. Jackie, your second podium after a win last night, a podium tonight. Now you just need a second place tomorrow on the Stelvio to complete the trifecta. Congratulations, another good day for you on the bike. Did you guys go? Did you guys go over anything last night? Any changes, adjustments for the start of the ride today after a somewhat late finish yesterday? An analytic approach goes out the window once the real heavy racing starts. I think it was Mike Tyson that said everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? That's sort of what racing on these virtual platforms is like. Hey, so Jacqueline, tell me about your life off the bike. We learned some really interesting stuff yesterday about sort of your move into virtual racing. You and your fiance both work in the medical field in Chicago, is that right? Well, I feel honored to get an interview with a PhD candidate here, and I understand where the analytic approach to the riding comes from now. It makes a whole lot more sense that a pair of PhD students would try to drill it down to the numbers. Has that been a big part of training for you? It sounds like the power numbers and the power zones and that kind of stuff is really a big part of trying to do numbers. All right, well, congratulations on another podium, 2 in a row here at the Echelon Racing League. We'll be looking for you at the front tomorrow on the Stelvio. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Have a great day. All right, so James, getting ready for our men's race coming up next. They do the same distance, same course, so this is going to be really interesting to watch. We saw a very similar race in the men's race to what we saw in the women's race yesterday, where it kind of stayed together to the finish. So I'm wondering if we see another elite selection out there again today in the men's race.
I think that's my expectation. I think we'll see a very similar line out that we saw on the podium yesterday. Something not a facsimile of the women's race, I don't think, by any accounts, but I think we'll see something very similar with a selection being made quite early on with those riders that are suited to these short, punchy, really high efforts that they need to produce to make that break and to stay away. So yeah, I would expect it to be very similar to what we've just witnessed with the great racing that the women have just put on.
Yeah, and again, a lot of learning for us and a lot of learning for the riders as they start to get a feel for the other riders in the field and a feel for their competitors out there. But certainly a lot of riders with a target on their back today after what we saw out there yesterday. There's a lot of riders that are going to start taking notice now of a few riders. We know Jaden Yeager stood out to us. Obviously, our entire podium will have targets on their back. But anyone else impress you yesterday? Any other names that jumped out that will maybe do a little better on the Paterberg today that weren't so great on the flat Borrego course yesterday?
I have to be careful about saying who wasn't so great on Borrego yesterday, but I think we saw. I think Charlie, a young Charlie Velez from Canyon Esports team, was pretty active in that front group, and I was expecting a little bit more from young man in the sprint. Perhaps Oscar Hutchins maybe can do something useful, and maybe Kayla Marshall. I would say that there's a possibility there as well. I'm looking at. I'm not just plucking these numbers out of thin air. They are my notes, and I've obviously looked at some of the performances yesterday. Looked at some of the power averages and how some of the athletes have performed. And it is based on a little bit of science, but yeah, they're my underdog picks. I have to give a shout out to Frank Cundiff yesterday, who was fifth with some exceptional racecraft. I think really, really cool racecraft. It was a different sort of ride to those top four riders, and he did a really good job.
Yeah, we hardly saw Frank at all at the front yesterday until he surged in the finish. Really weird start. We talked about this in the men's race from yesterday where riders were trying to get separated, but it was a lot of riders going off the back. Then we saw big attacks off the front. Michael Swart was going super deep trying to get away, but eventually he did get reeled back in, and that set up that small bunch sprint that went to the line where we saw Jaden Yeager try to go out early, but eventually he got reeled back in, and that was where Frank Cundiff was able to make his late race surge. You see that group just sitting in. There's Cundiff there on the left side of the screen. Hayden Warner tried to have a breakaway as well in the last 200 meters. I thought that was a good move. Had to give him credit for trying, but in the end, he got swept up. And then watch this surge to the line. Cundiff almost makes it, just barely off the podium as he hits the line, but a solid win and some happy riders there. You may notice that looks a little familiar because, yes, that is the exact same backdrop that we just interviewed Jackie Godbe with. So an interesting day of racing yesterday, and we're going to have a good day out there again today. Biggest surprise from yesterday for you, James?
I didn't really. My expectations were. I didn't have many expectations. I did expect. Now, I'm not going to say I expected some riders to perform better, but I'm not going to call them out because I don't think it's fair this early on as they're getting used to the platform. I'm just going to go back to Frank's performance yesterday, 3.7 watts per kilo. Everyone else in that front group was higher than 4 watts per kilo for the duration of that ride. Charlie Rebel was 4.4 watts per kilo. It was an exceptionally good ride from Frank to do so little, and he almost took it. So it's really interesting to see that he was able to sit in that group, to make the most of the wheels, and then almost take it on the finish line. It was a good ride by Frank, and I love the fact that we get this data with esports and we get to have a look at some of these performances in a way that you don't in real life, because all of the riders can see that post-ride summary where you get that performance of that nearest rival and those riders that finished in the same event as you. So they'll all be looking at Frank's ride yesterday going, okay, that's interesting. So Frank, didn't underperform. Frank did a great job. He performed, but it was a cool ride from Frank. It was very good to see that he put out significantly less watts per kilo than some of those riders in that front five.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of riders are really starting to analyze their numbers pre and post race. I want to bring in Neil Ostenfeld here from the Evoque bike presented by Insured team, who has marvelous hair blowing in the wind here. Neil, I love the look here with the fan. Any changes for you from yesterday into today? Did you go back and look at your power numbers? Do you review that stuff before the next day's race?
Just check humidity, guys. Yeah, humidity is like 89%. They're what? Oh, they're trying to. Okay, hold on.
I'll try to get Neil in here.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, so
Neil,
we were talking about data, power numbers.
From yesterday's race? Very different. Oh, no, that's not it. Yeah.
All right, test 2.
I can hear you. You can't hear me though, right? Oh, you do? Okay. Cool. From yesterday's race. Yesterday was pretty relaxed. It was such a big group. You couldn't really make anything go off the front, just based on like that absolute speed of the group. I think today will be different. It's going to be much harder, much less like sitting in and conserving. Just based on how curvy the course is, obviously the Paterberg, but we're all ready for it. So
It's great. I'm not sure if Brad can hear you, Neil. It's James. You're looking hot already. I think we heard you talking to some of your teammates, maybe on Discord, about the humidity there and some of the problems that you're going to feel with that. How do you work around that?
Well, it's actually nice today, but usually I have all the windows shut and I route all of my stuff to my room, my air conditioning to my room. I close off all the vents, and big fan in the front, fan in the back. But it's
cool. And we were commentating yesterday, and we were talking about the number of EVOC riders that have turned out for the Echelon event. It's been great to have you all there, but you've certainly got power in numbers. Do you think you will look to exploit those power in numbers today, and try and get someone up the road so you guys can just sit in, or is it a solo effort? Is it every man for himself?
I think having a good group definitely makes it easier to kind of police the front and make sure nothing goes that we don't want to go. There's a lot of strong riders in here. So it'll be easy. We can have, maybe one guy just kind of on the front, making sure no one super strong goes away with any, with a short amount of race distance left, maybe like right before the Paterberg the last time around. But I think, going up that climb 6 times, it's going to be every man for himself. It's going to be hard.
Yeah, I think you'll certainly start to feel that by the end.
Yeah, just a few minutes away from race time, guys. So we'll let Neil get into race mode here. Neil, good luck out there today. Good luck to the EVOC bike presented by Insured Team. I love watching riders getting ready. The pre-race warm-up is so unique for every rider. I notice some riders hardly spend any time on the bike. Some riders climb on right before, and then some riders will be on like an hour beforehand trying to warm up. Everyone's got their own custom warm-up method, I guess.
It feels almost spiritual, doesn't it? Like there's something known about it, like it's a process, and whether or not it's intentional or it's defined, it's a process, and everybody has a process. Neil obviously looking really focused and ready to go with plenty of prep, and I think we'll see other riders that are running around frantically now trying to find their bib shorts and shoes. So yeah, everyone has that process. Some people need that heart start, and they need to have their heart rate up before they go as hard as this is going to kick out. And other people are comfortable warming up in the event. Not something I would ever recommend, or I don't think it's particularly helpful either. But I do know some cyclocross riders as well that don't warm up, which is really unusual.
Yeah, just like in real life, you really want to have that smooth transition to the start line. You want to make sure that you're calm, that you're not rushing. But some riders are just able to push that all down and throw their shoes on 2 minutes before the start and get out there. Looks like most of our riders in the pen here ready to go, as our men's field looking at 1:20 to their start. Big field racing here with 61 riders registered in the group. And Neil, I'm looking for the first selection to come in the first lap. I think we're going to see a group of down to like maybe half of this field after the first lap of racing.
So we're going to talk about something now which was really important in the women's race that we talked about. Sidlick positioning herself at the front for that first corner, and then she was just able to roll nicely back through the group and just be off the back by the time the guys got to the top. This, with a big field like this, coming into the Paterberg, with everyone pushing out big numbers, there will be traffic up the Paterberg. These riders will feel the pinch, and it's going to be 2 races. It's going to be the race to the first corner at the bottom of the Paterberg, and then it's going to be the race up the Paterberg. There is going to be a need for these riders to focus and try and move up. Now, that's easier said than done when everybody is trying to move up, but you need to be at the front at the bottom of the Paterberg. That's for sure, Brad.
All right, coming up on 30 seconds to race start here, you see all the Restart Racing riders up there in the green and black shorts as the teams try to link together here. And we're getting ready to kick off day 2 here of the Echelon Racing League on the Paterberg. As we go underway, everyone gets into the red zone for the start here. And that's going to cause some problems for the riders at the back again. The separation massive. These guys quickly trying to get away here.
I mean, the group was ready for it this time, and they seem to be more closer together. And this first corner is certainly going to take the wind out of that first real high energy effort from that peloton. And those that are at the back will, more than likely be able to bridge back on as they slow down for this first corner. But what an absolutely ferocious, violent start again from the men. I think it's the only word I can use to describe it. Big power numbers, ready to launch out like they're on a catapult out of that start pen. Absolutely phenomenal racing.
James, is there an ideal way to start in RGT? I mean, do you want to be in the red zone when the race says go? Is there any advantage there to being at full power when the clock hits 0?
Yeah, we've just seen the best way to start a race on RGT from the men's and the women. The women hit it as hard as well. But that is the ideal way to start because everyone else around you is doing the same thing. And it's essentially like lifting the rear wheels up of your car and doing 60 miles an hour and then dropping the rear wheels onto the floor. That's what happens. Your power is activated the moment that flag is lifted or the clock turns to 0 and you see them all smashing off the front, smashing out the gate super hard. So that's the way to do it.
Yeah, a master class in starting from these guys as we take a look at, this is Neil Ostenfeld and Jade Yeager saying hello to the camera for the Adapt Cycling team as Yeager jumps out of the saddle a little bit. So a lot of back and forth here early on for these guys. It's just about staying in. Neil Ostenfeld looking nice and comfortable, looking calm, cool, and collected. And Jade Yeager, I think, adjusted the camera from yesterday too. So I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot more of Jade Yeager today.
Yeah, it looks looking at the graphic, it looks like we've got 2 groups already. I think that's actually an error with the graphic. Sorry, no, that's all that same group, I think, Matt. Yeah, so Neil Ostenfeld and Jaden Yeager looking both quietly composed and ready for action. So we're just about to hit our favourite little climb in Belgium. Brad, we're going to hit the Bambino Paterberg. Probably going to be quite important again. We saw this being instrumental in the women's race, this section of the road. So maybe we'll see it again here as well. Look at those numbers, all gone red. Everybody's red. Yeah, everybody red.
A little bit of separation.
Sorry, Brad, I keep talking over you. There's a bit of a delay, so it's a bit of a struggle, but I'll let you go.
Well, just watching Diner getting away here, you see the Evoc rider comes up to him and then sits right on. Really good RGT riding from Neil Ostenfeld here in second position. Didn't go past Diner here, but was able to get up there and close the gap enough to get the draft. And then a really good job to make sure he doesn't go by him. This is going to allow the rest of the field to come up and grab him. You see one of the Canyon Esports riders coming up to join his teammate Diner up there. I think that's going to be Mueller joining up into third. So this might be a small group of 3. These guys might be able to get away if they're able to work together, but there's still a lot of big names back behind them. You see Cooper, you see Swart, there's Jonathan Crane getting a tag above his name as well. So there are still a lot of strong riders remaining in that group behind these guys.
Yeah, that was interesting to see as well. Diagner and Ostenfeld both at the front of the race. Ostenfeld putting out absolutely no power whatsoever on that descent. We know that he's experienced on the platform. Then we saw Deigner sitting at 4.5 watts per kilo, just completely throwing, you know, power out the window for no reason whatsoever. So it's interesting to see that some riders have learned what to do on the platform, and others are still just some nuances. I think that you know, if they understood it a little bit better, they'd be saving some of those watts. But these are those corners, Brad. This is where they need to be at the front, otherwise they face getting stuck in traffic up the Paterberg.
Yeah, I think a lot of riders learned a valuable and painful lesson yesterday with the Borrego Springs criterion, where they were getting dropped in the corners. They have a major effect on the racing here in RGT. And so positioning is key going in, but also the power and speed that you carry through those corners. You really have to be able to pedal out of it and then put in an effort when you're leaving the corner, just like in real life. You have to, you want to power out of it to get your speed back up ASAP. A lot of riders had trouble adapting to that yesterday.
So this is Velez going for the Canyon Esports team. Just looking at Deigner, just sat on the front of that group, not putting in enough effort to start closing down on his teammate. Clever riding by the Canyon Esports team now, letting Velez get up the road. If they get a guy up there, then they can forget about doing any work back in the group, and they can just let that go away. So it's interesting to see that Deigner just kind of letting it go, just not doing too much to bring his teammate back. Big numbers though, all the way up, everybody in the red, everybody pushing hard. Absolutely, 9 watts per kilo, 7 watts per kilo, 10 watts per kilo for Ostenfeld as he bridges up to Velez. This could be a nice little selection, 2 riders going together.
And this is Velez here in the pink jersey. You see Neil Ostenfeld in the upper left and Jaden Yeager in the bottom left of the picture here. Velez was putting in a massive effort out of the saddle earlier, although it looks like he's now realizing that he's going to have some company, but certainly made a statement early on. First time up the Paterberg for Charlie Belay.
Yeah, looking good. This is an interesting move going. Ostenfeld again sat in, just making the most, saving some energy. Is he going to come through and pull a turn? I think, you know, definitely needs to if he wants to go away with Velez here. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully.
Let's see who's trying to chase these guys down, because I think there are some nervous legs back here. Swartz a little farther back. I did see Jaden Yeager up at the front of this group, which we're calling the Chasers. These are all the names we saw yesterday at the end of the day. So these are the strong guys in the group, and you can see they've just been caught off a little bit. Chaos up here at the front. They are really struggling to get organized here, James.
But that was absolutely destroyed the field. That attack by Velez with Ostenfeld going with him absolutely destroyed the field. They're at 6s and 7s looking at each other. Who's going to take it up? Who's going to get organised and start to do the work to pull these guys back? The problem with the Paterberg course is it's short. There's no long straights for a big group to start to make and bridge those gaps. So we might see that this very early selection of Velez and Ostenfeld, with a couple of guys now coming over to them as 2 Canyon Esports riders in that break. Maybe if Deigner can make it over, that's looking like a very, very handy selection. Very handy selection.
Yeah, I think these 3 are going to join. So we'll add Yeager, Usborn, and Deigner to the list as Deigner gets back in. So I think that's going to make 5 up here at the front in that selection. Then you see a small group behind them. That's a group of like 10, maybe 12 guys, not far back. I think Thomas, Warner, Dubuque are the 3 riders in there. So about 50 meters behind this lead group. Boy, James, if you're sitting in that second group and you're watching this group of names go away up the road, you better start putting that thing into the red zone real quick to get up here.
There is absolutely no point in stopping racing. Any negative racing by those guys in the chasing group now will destroy their chances. That will be it for them. If they start to look around, if they hit the front and sit up, then that's staccato style racing. That will stop the momentum of that chasing group. They cannot afford to look at each other because these guys are all working. Every single one of these riders in this breakaway is working. I mean, as I say that, I look at Yeager and he's just sat on, but every one of these guys is working now.
Yeah, a lot of that is just the rotation of trying to find the draft and trying to get an echelon started. But look at the group behind them. They are starting to close the gap just a little bit, bringing a few meters back here as these guys step on the gas again, going into the red. Boy, watch the distance here to the right of the names. Look at like 6th, 7th, and 8th place there. You see they right around 50 meters back. So that's going between like 50 and 80 meters behind.
Yeah, so it's a big ask as well to go from this far out. If they can, that would be amazing. But it's a big ask to go from this far out as Velez pushes on again, looking super strong, really animating this race.
Velez taking the fight to him out there today for the Canyon Esports team, and with a teammate with him here in this group, he's got to be feeling really good about this scenario. You see Neil Ostenfeld starting to panic just a little bit, going one eye deep in this effort here for Ostenfeld.
Yeah, there certainly looks to be a Vokler type thing happening with both of the riders on screen right now. There are some faces getting pulled as they go deep into the hurt locker, trying to stay with them. As Ostenfeld, I can't see what's happening right now, I think he's set up, and I think that's because he's back in the draft and we're on the descent right now.
Yep, just coasting on the way down. Everybody taking the opportunity to try to get a little bit of rest. Luckily, everybody seems to be doing the same thing, and all the riders taking advantage of it to try to get back into the green zone there. But then as things flatten out, it's back to work. Look at the separation behind them. I'm going to go ahead and call this 3 with Velez and Diner have now split the group with Usborn up there, and the other 2 getting dropped as Jaeger and Ostenfeld find themselves off the back of this group.
Yeah, this is an a significant event for the chasers right now with Jaeger having such a good time trial. He would be the all-round athlete if he had that climb in him as well, that short punchy climb. And I think we might see those 3 that are up the road, if they can continue to ride the way they are, then that could be our selection. There isn't, like I said a moment ago, there isn't the racing you get on courses with longer straights. It's technical, there's turns, and then there's that big VO2 max effort as they crack onto that climb and start to push really hard. So the front 3 now, we've got Usborn, Velez, and Dijkner as they come onto the Paterberg for the second time. I'd be interested to see how they ride it today. Look at this. They're all out. They're going for it. Still turning the key. Turning the screw.
Sounds like the start of a bad joke. An American, a German, and a Canadian go on to the Paterberg. You won't believe what happens next. Velez taking the lead here as, again, into the red zone on the way up. And then I'm trying to get a look behind here at the Chasers, that second group. Now, this is behind 4th and 5th place. Jaeger and Ostenfeld riding together behind that lead group of 3. Velez, Diner, and Usborn up here. And then there's the gap back to Jaeger and Ostenfeld. Man, they can taste it up the road for this group of 3.
Yeah, I mean, out of sight, out of mind. And when we get over the top of this climb, you're going to see those 3 front riders, they're going to disappear. They're not going to be in the view of Ostenfeld, of Jaeger, of that bigger chasing group, which I expect will come together actually. But if these 3 riders can get over the climb and they can just whip away, they might find themselves in a really, really strong position. It's still just kicking up. Just looking at the front 3 there, they're still just kicks up towards the end, and now we're on that flat section. I think it would probably be useful for Velez to wait for Dijkner just to bridge that gap and come with them.
Yeah, for sure. And important for Jaeger and Ostenfeld, too. Don't give up. Never give up the chase, because if these guys come to an agreement in that lead group of 3 that, hey, we can rest a little bit, we're going to spend a little time in the green zone or blue zone, try and recover a little bit.
Absolutely, and then you do face the uncertainty of internet connections and mechanicals, so you never ease off. You can never afford to ease off because you just don't know what's going to happen. The race will end. That's one thing that's for sure, but you don't know what's going to happen up the front, so you should always keep riding. Always keep riding. You can never afford to back down.
Yeah, probably easy to think for Jaeger and Ostenfeld. They could say, all right, let's just race against each other to try and sort out fourth and fifth. But still a long way to go. Really, anything can happen. So both of those guys are fighters through and through. I would expect to see them continuing to try to chase this group of three. They're at 158, 160 meters back right now. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if the gap changes at all back to Ostenfeld and Jaeger from the lead group of three with Velez, Osborne, and Diner.
Yeah, this is exciting racing. If they can get organised at the back, I mean, we see this with community events, and we see organisation in the chasing group because they understand that you need to take a turn. But everyone's new to the platform. It's, you know, some of these guys are second or third race on RGT cycling. They're maybe not used to what they need to do. The moment you hit the front, if you're in that chasing group, you need to keep your power up. You need to sustain some power. You need to drag the group along. There's no point hitting the front and slowing down because of the way the physics work. That will encourage some slowing in the group. It will slow it down. You just need to keep driving forwards, and you need to keep pressing hard. You know, the physics will do the rest.
It looks like these two trying to figure out how they might be able to swap poles. I'm noticing they're kind of alternating the colors here. So I think there is sort of an unwritten agreement. You see Jaeger was green, Ostenfeld goes red. So I think Jaeger trying to do a little bit of work now, and then maybe Ostenfeld will take over. Seems like these guys might have figured it out a little bit here, James, how to work together on the RGT platform.
Yeah, and it's really good to see them trying to work together. But it's a course where racing, it's all racing, and it's difficult to find those straights where you can make the most of it. Bigger groups, when everyone's pushing and pulling, and you can have an impact. But two riders with these short straights and the amount of technical corners and turns, and it's doable. It's definitely doable, particularly if Velez, Osborne and Diagnos start to self and just take it a little bit easy, thinking about the sprint. We're already 10 kilometers in. We've only got 14 left, and they're going to start thinking about their own personal glory at some point. And at that point, Jaeger and Ostenfeld may come back, but it's going to be difficult. I think what's more likely is Thomas, Warner, Pantal, they're all going to join forces with Ostenfeld and Jaeger. We're going to see that those two chasing groups become one chasing group, and perhaps that power of that chasing group, because they've made significant ground up on Ostenfeld and Jaeger looking at this, and maybe they can continue to do so.
Yeah, I think the issue for Ostenfeld and Jaeger is the explosive power of this group. Velez, Osborne, and Diner, they have these quick, short power attacks, and I think that's where Jaeger and Ostenfeld got into a little bit of trouble here, because when these guys go, they go hard. Jaeger and Ostenfeld are a little more slow, steady burn riders, but these guys have explosive power, and for a course like the Paterberg, that is perfect to try to get rid of guys like Jaden Jaeger, because let's be clear, Jaeger and Ostenfeld both have the power to be here in this group today, but it's just a matter of using it at the right time. These three guys, I think, caught them off guard with their explosive attacks up the Paterberg, and then Jaeger and Ostenfeld just weren't able to respond to that move because, again, they're long, sustained effort riders. They're Mack trucks, and these guys are Ferraris up the road right now.
I'm just looking at Velez, just, you know, on the casual, texting his mates, like, unbelievable, looking pretty composed there, considering with three ascents at the Paterberg. Just picking his phone up and maybe I don't know, ordering his tea. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe trying to communicate with his Canyon Esports teammate. Although I'm watching Philip Diner on the screen here as well, and I don't see Diner returning the text. So not sure if Velez is trying to talk to his teammate here or if he's just checking up on his Instagram.
Yeah, Canyon Esports team are in a fantastic position now. They've found themselves with two riders up the road. I think they've got three riders in the chasing group. What a great position to be in. Three super explosive riders, as you alluded to. It's likely that Canyon Esports is certainly going to have a podium come from this race. And I'm watching Velez and Diagner knocking lumps out of Osborne with I think I've got my teams and names right there, Brad, but knocking lumps out of Osborne. One's going up the road, and then Osborne's having to follow, and then another's going up the road. It certainly looked that way. So interesting racing as well. Some some tactics are happening.
Yeah, we're seeing the chase behind as Ostenfeld and Jaeger have now been joined by a big group. They're going to get swallowed up. But you're absolutely right. This is a super, super tough position for Osborne because he's got Diner and Velez in a sort of 1-2 lineup here.
Yeah, looking at Velez just dropping the wheel, having to work particularly hard to get back on. Not sure what happened there. Maybe stuck in some lap traffic. But hopefully he can get back. It would be nice to see a Canyon 1-2 or a Canyon 1-3, something like that. It would be it'd be pretty cool to have two riders from the same team up the road in the breakaway, managing to work the tactics and work the platform. So it's,
and back to our view of our two pain caves, again with Velez and Diner, the two Canyon Esports teammates, riding together here and trying to get rid of Osborne in this lead group of three.
So there is a gap now opening. Yeah, there's a gap now opening to Velez, Osborne and Dagner. Two men breakaway with Velez chasing. I am surprised to see these guys taking that decision, but looking at the way the race is opening up, maybe that is the right move if they feel they can go. Oh, there we go. Spoke way too soon as Velez just springs into the screen like nothing's wrong. So I'll be quiet and let you talk, Brad.
And definitely well aware of the need to stay with the group here.
I was sure that Velez had made the decision to sit up and let Dagner go away, but that wasn't the case. Velez was obviously, I think he was ordering dessert. That's what he was doing. He was ordering dessert.
Well, really just a waiting game now for these two guys. The ball is in Canyon Esports court, that's for sure. It's up to them to make the call on how they're going to play this one.
Yeah, it's kind of like the standard versus quick step ride from I think it was Flèche Wallonne or Liège. I'm sure someone can help me correct that. When I think there was 3 or 4 quick step riders facing off against standard, and they attacked and then standard caught, and then they attacked and standard caught, and then they attacked and standard caught, and every time they attacked, that quick step rider would ping off the back until it was standard who attacked and then soloed to victory with an incredible effort. So just because there's 2 esports, Canyon Esports riders, doesn't necessarily mean that Osborne can't do his bit and take the podium top spot. So still with 3 riders up the road. Don't see that changing anytime soon. The gap is holding at about 500 meters.
Well, now 10.7 kilometers remaining. Looking more and more like it's just going to come down to a 3-rider drag race here.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Brad. We're well over halfway now, I mean, they're holding them. The chasing group is holding them at around 500 meters. That will go out again though when they're on the descent. So that distance gap is affected by the speed that the riders are travelling. We do have on our list of developments. We would like to incorporate a time gap. So yeah, hopefully we can have that for racing sooner rather than later, because it does make time in the gaps difficult. But there's always that ebb and flow when you're using distance gaps, where obviously the quicker the riders are going, the less distance there is between, the more distance there is between them, and the slower they're going, the less distance is between them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. There's almost its own language, its own world of racing here, where you really have to understand all these dynamics in order to be able to do well on a platform like this and in a race like this.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So just watching the numbers in the chasing group, it looks like there is a bit of an organised effort now with all the riders on the front, all pushing high numbers. But then I guess they are on that Bambino Paterberg, so they are they're pushing hard for the climb. So see how it goes when they're on the descent. Yeah, here we go. Look, just pushing hard as they now come to the top of the Belgian Bambino Paterberg. I like alliteration, so that's what we'll go with. It's not as big as I thought, this chasing group, right? There's less riders here, and there looks to be less organisation as well. So it's looking sewn up for those three at the front, barring injury or mayhem.
Now, Wachtendorf trying to go across the gap there. You saw him trying to leave the group behind, but 700 meters back, he's got a pretty long road between him and this group of three. So as long as these guys stay in a decent zone, I don't think there's a big danger of them being caught. Look at the colors back here. These guys really aren't moving into the yellow, orange, red zone too much. So not seeing a ton of effort back here from the chasers.
I think they're just taking a break after the shorter of the two climbs on the course. I think they're probably trying to get some breath back in their legs before they turn the screw up with Paterberg. And actually, when you look at the distance between them, I think as our riders come to the top of the Paterberg, we are going to see that chasing group at the bottom of the Paterberg. So we're looking at probably 40-50 seconds gap. I expect to see the Paterberg RGT com busted today by one of these. Maybe it has been already on that first lap because that was a blistering pace. But yeah, the chasing group now is at the base of the climb, so they are on the climb actual. They are on the same climb together. They will be able to see them right now as they come around this corner. Maybe as they come around this corner, they'll be able to see them just up the road in the distance.
A little bit of lap traffic that they work through there as we go back to the chasers. Now, these guys in the red zone on the way up. Wachtendorf spending a lot of time up at the front. We've been watching Ostenfeld and Jaeger trying to chase this one down, almost working together at one point earlier in the day, as they were originally with this lead group of three. It was 5 with Ostenfeld and Jaeger, but they got dropped out of the group of 3. And now riding with that big group, trying to chase about 15 riders, trying to work together to bring back this group of 3. But with 8.4 kilometers to go, I don't know if they're going to have enough time to do it.
Yeah, and the longer this small breakaway stays away, the less chance there will be. It really is a tough course. It really is a tough course to bridge that gap, to make that time up. There isn't that much racing that suits a bigger group or a bigger power number like Jaeger and Ostenfeld working together earlier on, and now that bigger group. It's very hard. It's all up, it's all down. There's very few opportunities for this group to come back now. It's looking really good for these guys. Hopefully they don't get stuck in traffic, but it's looking really good for these 3 guys now. 8 kilometers to go. 8 kilometers to go. So it's looking good.
Peter Olenicek up the road. After falling out of the group, Olenicek riding with the Project Echelon Racing team, our host team today here at the Echelon Racing League. And I'm trying to think about the strategy for Velez and Diner here with Usborne. When do you go? When do you attack? I got to think one of them has to attack if they have a plan and if they're in communication. You got to think one goes early and one sits back with Usborne. That would be the standard approach to this situation, James.
I think it depends on how they're feeling. But in my mind, the thing to do right now is... for those guys is just to keep the pressure on, and every time they hit that climb, Okenchek taking a free ride here. Maybe he's going to bridge back up to the next group. But yeah, just to keep that power on, and then keep hurting, keep turning the screw, keep taking chunks out of him and softening him up each of those climbs.
Well, as we said earlier, the course is really broken into two parts of the climb. There's the red climb, which is the big Paterberg, and then there's the yellow climb, which is the baby Paterberg, as we're calling it. And that's been a huge part of the racing today, both in the women's race and the men's race. We saw a lot of attacks launch from that point 6 times each lap for the men and women. That's 6 times up the Paterberg, 6 times up that smaller climb. And it seems like right around halfway through, James, is where it really starts to blow up and where the separation really happens. But you called it before the start of this one. That smaller climb has played a major part in the racing this weekend.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I think the reason I called it yesterday was to give all the DSs a little bit of a heads up if they were listening to the commentary, to get an idea of what that, you know, the fact that second climb could be instrumental. But there's no doubt it's been really important in the racing that we've seen. Still watching our lapped rider sticking with this front group. Be interesting to see if he can stick with those big numbers on the climb as we see him get instantly distanced, as the power of these riders, explosive power of these riders is on show for all to see. I'm not sure we've got at the bottom of that screen, Brad. Look at the cadence. Super high, super spinning cadence.
That is Usborne right there.
Ah, good man. Good man.
Yeah, the shadowy figure of Usborne.
So that was that climb that we talked about. We've got to do that climb one more time in the Paterberg twice before we come through and we decide who's going to win. There's been a lot of riders found out today, Brad. I'm surprised to see so many riders off the back of this front group, but as I've remarked a few times, the chasing group isn't massive, and it is hard to make that time up on this course. All descents and all climbs with technical little corners. It's like a fast crit course. It's difficult to make that time up. It's really difficult to make the time up.
And again, these are some lapped riders tacking on to the back of this group here. You see number 47 to the left of Warwick there. So just seeing how long he can hang with the big boys up here at the front of the race.
It's something we do see in crit racing in real life. Lap riders are generally pulled, but some crit organisers allow that lap rider to stay in and finish the lap that they're on before pulling them. But you depends. Sometimes you just don't expect to see, particularly in virtual sports, the lap riders sticking on and making the most, getting a pull up to the guys in front of them. But let's see what happens as we come up to our penultimate attack up the Paterberg climb.
And going under 5K to go now.
So I think for me, if I was DSing this, if I was Reese Howell and I was working with the Canyon guys, I was DSing, I'd be saying, now someone goes. Now is the opportunity to stick the hurting on Usborne, make him do the chasing. I'm not sure if I've still got audio. I don't know what happened then, Brad. It went a bit, a lot of feedback and then complete silence. So this is looking testing now. Usborne is actually, he's taking it to them. He's taken the fight to them. I would have expected Velez or Daigner to stick it in a little bit then, but no, he's taken taking it to them. As we see Daigner get stuck in a little bit of traffic there, that's not his fault. I think that's a quirk of the platform that we definitely need to work out. That would have been unfortunate if it had found himself out the back of this group because of the traffic. And still Usborne rides. So I think Osborne definitely shown his hand there. Definitely shown his hand. Shown he's got good legs. He's going well. I'm not sure if he dropped Velez and Dagner there, or Velez and Dagner decided to let him go. I mean, he's working hard. He's working particularly hard now.
Coming up on 4K to go now. And just a little gap for Diner off the back. Canyon Esports is quickly running out of time to launch the attack that we were talking about earlier, where they use the numbers to their advantage, try to send somebody away earlier. Although it's probably a lot easier to say that someone should attack. Velez and Diner can't have much left in the tank here, so maybe just not enough left after a very tough day on the Paterberg for these guys to try to get something together.
No, Velez was the athlete that the rider that animated the move at the beginning. We saw him up the front. We saw him move up for the climb. We saw him move for the first climb. We saw him move up for the second climb, and then we saw him attack up the Paterberg. We saw Ostenfeld go with him, and unfortunately, well, a group of 5 I think went away and eventually got dropped with Dagner bridging over. But yeah, Velez and Dagner both really going to be feeling the effects of 5 descents of the Paterberg with 1 to go. So it's, yeah, as you say, Brad, it's easy to say we would expect to see something happen soon, but who knows? We'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, the other important thing for Osborne is to spend as little time as possible in the virtual wind. Make these guys do all the work, sit on the Canyon Esports riders. Osborne really shouldn't have his nose in the wind at all until they get a little closer to the line here. But 3K out, Osborne needs to be saving every watt that he can here.
Definitely. Looking back at yesterday's results, it looks like Osborne and Velez were both in the top 10. Just a reminder, that top 20 yesterday on Borrego was separated by only 20 seconds. It is a scored event, so it's not done on overall time, but there would be obviously time bonuses if it were. So Osborne and Velez are certainly the riders on the virtual podium for the GC right now as well. So we're seeing the fight for GC play out with Osborne and Velez.
2.5K to go now. Osborne has been incredible today, hanging with these two. It is very easy to get discouraged when you find yourself surrounded by the Canyon Esports jerseys in a breakaway like this, but Osborne has just been staying calm. I've been watching him on his rider cam. He's not spending a lot of time out of the saddle. He's really managed to turn this into a steady ride. I think the Paterberg is the only time that he's getting out of the saddle here, so he's doing a nice job of just keeping it steady, making sure he doesn't go too deep, and making sure he's got something left for the finish today.
This is getting to the pointy end of the race now, isn't it? It's exciting. We've got this short Bambino Paterberg to go, and then the actual Paterberg after that descent. So now is the time the guys need to be attacking if they are. Osborne just forced to bridge up to Dagner as Velez comes round Osborne again. Now is the time for the Canyon Esports team to turn the screw, or if we take the last descent of the Paterberg as anything to go by, Osborne looked great and actually gapped both of the Canyon Esports riders. So yeah, now's the time. Just they need to make a move.
All right, under 2 kilometers to go to the finish now. Ooh, Diner making a big push here on the way up immediately into the red zone, and Osborne going to respond. Velez trying to hang there, but a big attack from Diner off the front. This is it. This is exactly what we were talking about, James. Diner, the first one to light the fuse.
Yeah, this is getting exciting. Diner was the first of the esports rider to give it a pop. Osborne closing the gap, and Velez not looking like he's on yet, but I'm sure he can get back on this descent. Yeah, as he pulls back on Diner's wheel, but Osborne forced to go there. So if Velez is still feeling good as he comes onto this climb, we've got this descent to go, and then we are on the final ascent of the Paterberg, and Osborne has just been forced to burn one of his matches by the Canyon Esports outfit.
Velez got back in there as well, picking up a lapped rider.
I think that was planned. I think that was planned, Brad. I think that was Dagner softening up Osborne for Velez. I think they know what they're doing here.
All right, going inside 1 kilometer to go to the line here, as this is going to be a fast 800 meters. Usborne, Weeks, and Diner will all three go to the line together. This will be a 3-up drag race here. Velez moving up now. Remember, Weeks out of the conversation here. That's a lapped rider. Usborne taking an early lead here. Look at Diner in the green zone, though. He's barely pedaling. Still hasn't gone into the red zone yet. Usborne going a little deeper now at 500 meters to go. This looks like it might be Diner and Usborne, as now the race to the top of the Paterberg begins.
Yeah, we're off here. Usborne, Diner, Velez, all in the red, all in the big numbers. Velez coming straight round Usborne. There's no messing around now. That's a serious amount of power. That's 8 watts per kilo, 7 watts per kilo, and 8.5 watts per kilo, respectively, for each of those riders. Velez has got a little gap. He's pulled out by 6 meters now, Brad, and we've got 315 meters to go with about 170, 180 meters of this climb left.
All right, down to 250 meters to the top. Velez with just a small gap over Usborne, but all three in the red zone here. So these guys are pretty much going their max power right now. There is not much headroom left for either of these three riders as Velez continues to gap.
Yeah, he's doing great, and Usborne's being forced to chase, and he's going to be forced to chase. So if Diner can hold that wheel, we are going to be looking at a 1-2. Usborne's coming up to Velez, though. He's bridged that gap. I'll let you call him home, Brad.
Velez trying to hold back Usborne here, although he's still got a shot, but I think Velez is going to hold on here. So the American for Canyon Esports will take the win. Usborne going to end up second. And Diner will take third place as Canyon Esports goes 1 and 3. What a ride for that squad.
Great to see Diner just roll over the line there, completely spent, exhausted, but an absolutely fantastic performance by the Canyon Esports team with a 1-2, with a 1 and 3, working over Usborne properly. Back to the main race though, as we're looking for the battle for fourth. So this is Warner as we're coming to the steeper part of the Paterberg ascent, but he's being closed down by Thomas. There's Mike Swart, there's Wischendorf. Forgive the pronunciations, please don't send letters. But it's looking really good as they're just coming around some lap traffic there. Not sure who that is on the front, but it's an Evoc rider looking like it might be a fourth. It's Ostenfeld again.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one for sure out of this group, as are the rest of our top 10 finishing up. We're going to try and grab a word with Philip Diner, our winner here in the Zoom room here in just a minute as we watch these guys finish up. But this is going to be an exciting one too, because remember, this still matters for points and placings in the Omnium. So these guys looking at the overall, trying to improve their placing so that their Omnium points will be better as the season goes forward. So that's why Jaden Yeager pulled ahead for a 4th place finish. They're way to salvage the day for Yeager there. Great ride to find a top 5 finish for him.
Yeah, it looks like he was closely followed by Ostenfeld, who actually had a bigger sprint, and you can see that because he finished further down the road than Jaden Yeager did. But just a correction, I think it was Velez that took the win, or was it Diagno?
Oh, that hurt, you guys. That was not pleasant.
Congratulations, Diner. Talk to him in Zoom. Hey, guys.
Hey,
Philip.
Philip.
Can you hear us? Yes, I can. All right, congratulations on the ride today. First of all, I want to talk about the team setup there for Canyon Esports. Doesn't get much better than that for you guys today. Was that part of the plan? Were you trying to isolate somebody?
Yeah, I think that some people would be surprised that we started an early attack. I knew that Charlie was in a pretty good shape and that he would probably be able to hang with us. And it was just about making this as selective as possible from the gun to make sure that we had a small group. Because I'm not a sprinter and I wanted it to be very small at the end.
Were you communicating with Charlie, your teammate? Were you guys? I saw you pick up your phone a couple times. Were you guys texting? Were you chatting at all?
Yeah, 20, Sean.
I didn't notice I was still muted, so we had that plan and we tried to execute it, but I think he didn't hear me from
They go
the
20
start.
back,
In the
Sean.
end, we knew that he was stronger, so then we figured out that he was the one to go for the win. But in the beginning, it was just
They go 20, I
trying to work
think,
together
Sean.
just by signaling in the group and seeing who was doing the work and who wasn't. And that went pretty well because the group dynamics, we felt that we were able to just always share the work and we were able to fill that gap.
Yeah, I noticed that you guys really seemed like you figured out the virtual pace line of how to work together. It's kind of part of the learning curve. There's a few bugs to work out in virtual racing, things like the audio, you got to be unmuted, trying to figure out how the platform works, all that stuff.
Thanks for the encouragement, everyone. I needed it on that 5th time around. I was like, I really wanted that to be the last one.
I'm not going to tomorrow. I'm getting a rest day. But yeah, I think it's a pretty steep learning curve. But once you figure it out, then it really feels like you're actually riding with it, which is pretty cool. And I think we can. It's just if you're a team and it has a plan, you can really execute it on RGT.
Hey, what has it been like racing with the Canyon Esports team this year? It's been an interesting year to be an esports athlete, but you guys have probably one of the biggest programs out there.
Another normalized power buster.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to be part of that team. We see it's more of a professional team. Every race week we do, and it's I mean, now the development, the guys we got coming up, it feels like we're really building something here. And yeah, I mean, it's the bigger the races get, the more motivated we are to improve.
Yeah, thanks for cheering us on, Patrick. Have a good rest of your Saturday.
I mean, we had to hold 7 watts, 8 watts per kilogram on these lines, and it's just crazy hard.
Well, you made it look easy out there today. Congratulations on a great ride. Let's see if we can grab a word with Charlie, who we were just talking about on the ride. Charlie, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Hey, so congratulations out there today. We were talking about kind of working out the race as things went on throughout the day. It seems like you guys were steadily learning as the race went on. Did you feel pretty confident by the time you hit the Paterberg the final time?
Yeah, I felt pretty confident. I mean, it wasn't really expecting a breakaway to stick on the first lap of that climb.
Hey, tell me about the intel that you guys had for this race going into it. Did you look at the course a whole lot today? Is this a good course for you? What's normally your style of riding?
I would say my normal style of riding has been all around there. But I mean, we rode this course a couple times, and since it's a bit of a rollery course, it was pretty much, I would say, my style of riding. I mean, it all works in together.
Yeah, all's well that ends well, I guess, with the Canyon Esports team. Last question for you, looking to tomorrow as we head to Stelvio. Are you racing the big climb tomorrow?
Yes, I am, and really looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun, long climb.
All right, we'll keep an eye out for you on the front. Congratulations on a great ride, Charlie Velez from the Canyon Esports team on the podium. 2 riders today at the Echelon Racing League. Congratulations, Charlie.
Thank you.
Well, it doesn't get much better than that for an esports team, does it, James? To get 2 riders on the podium and to be able to do it like that, where you get to kind of take a guy to the line. I mean, when you think about textbook breakaway tactics, that's definitely one of the first case studies you learn in bike racing school.
Yeah, and I'm chuffed. I've got to say, I'm really chuffed to see both races and the way they did with those, gigantic efforts from the athletes. What an absolutely outstanding set of events. Really enjoyed it. The athletes giving it their all and making it the spectacle that bike racing should be. Canyon Esports looked well drilled and probably making a nuisance of themselves if they were in that chasing group. Just really enjoyable racing.
All right, well, one final day tomorrow as we head to the Stelvio climb, a much different day tomorrow as we've been talking about with the riders here, as we continue to get a look at all these various RGT courses and how the different racing affects the dynamics of the sport differently. Do riders need to change anything for tomorrow? I mean, do you adjust the way that you ride? Do you adjust, obviously you can't adjust your power, but do you adjust where you use the power on the climb?
No. Tomorrow is going to be a watts per kilo time trial. I suspect we'll see athletes that do well on other platforms do well on the Pienza on the Stelvio course. Sorry, because of the way I expect the race to transpire. It is literally a watts per kilo fest. So the higher watts per kilo that you can sustain for that 45 minutes, maybe for the men, maybe 50, 55 for the women, 50 for the women, I think. It's all going to be on that sustainable, that functional threshold watts per kilo, not functional threshold absolute power. So it makes no difference where you put that power out, the bottom of the climb or the top of the climb. But if you have the highest average watts per kilo, that's what's going to do it.
There he goes.
Well, here is the climb that we're heading towards tomorrow, the big Stelvio climb on the VeloViewer presented by Strava. A whole lot of orange, whole lot of yellow. That means one thing, very, very tough racing coming up as they climb the legendary Stelvio Pass. It's only 8.7 miles in distance, but they're going to pick up just over 4,000 feet from the time they get to the bottom up to the top with an average gradient of 7%, going up to 14% at one point tomorrow. So it is going to be a good one as we get into the quote-unquote real alpine climbing out there, and I cannot wait to see how this one plays out, not only for the results there, but also looking forward to the season standing.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be an absolutely fantastic closing event for the inaugural Project Echelon race series on RGT cycling stage race. Really looking forward to seeing how it all pans out tomorrow.
All right, well, I think we could wrap it up there, James. Thanks for being with us today. As racing continues tomorrow, we're going to go recover, let the riders get a chance to get some rest, and get ready for a big day 3 to wrap up the weekend here at the Echelon Racing League. For James Vickers, my name is Brad Soner, saying thanks for watching. Again, racing continues tomorrow on the Stelvio in the Echelon Racing League. We'll see you there.